back to the Just Make It Pretty podcast. Today we are talking about the power of visual storytelling, and I have a very special guest with us. So I can't wait for you to hear everything we have for you today. So let's get into it. Welcome to the Just Make It Pretty podcast, the slightly unhinged marketing podcast for home builders and beyond. I'm your host, Sarah Haynes, also known as the Pixel Wizard, and my goal is to tackle the tough stuff that goes in behind the scenes in marketing and offer actionable tips, creative insights, and a little bit of humor to spark some creativity. I'm so glad you're here. Now let's get started. All right, everybody, welcome back. So today we are talking to Casey O'Farrell, the founder of Boda Studios, which is a cinematic brand storytelling studio. He works with companies that want to create content with actual depth and purpose. So I was like, this is the perfect guest to have on. I can't wait for everyone to meet him. So thank you so much for joining us, Casey. Your work is absolutely stunning. So tell us a
Oh,
little bit
thanks.
about what you guys do over there at Boda Studios.
Yeah, you nailed it on the head. Our focus is really to create content that has a basis in cinema because I have a large background in performing arts and film and television. So there has to be the aesthetic quality to it as well. But then just on a personal note, something that we've really just fell into for the business has been grounding it in emotional reality and making content that connects on a personal level rather than just pitching out more kind of commercial style content or sales pitch style content that is driven by focus groups that doesn't have any sort of substance with the audience that the brand is trying to reach. And so that's been a big focus on ours is finding out who's behind the campaign and who started the company, why they started the company, and then telling those stories over what the marketing kind of department has come up with that has focus group or A/B tested or which color works better for button clicks. So that's really where our focus comes from is connecting to the authentic again.
Absolutely. I think that's the very first thing, the very first video I saw of you over on LinkedIn was about that very thing, like being authentic online. And that's something that I'm really passionate about. So I think this is going to be a great conversation. So just to set the stage for everyone listening, what we're going to talk about in this episode is what makes brand video actually effective and how that can work, how to sell more than square footage, like you said, like getting into who you are, who your customer is, making that emotional connection. Obviously, I work with a lot of home builders, but this really applies for any business. So I'm really excited for that. And then also telling stories without needing a huge budget. I know I get that ejection a lot where they're like, oh, we would love to have this great video, but our budget is this tiny thing. I know there's a lot of like tips that you probably have and work around. So I'm super excited to talk about that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, let's get into it.
Awesome. All right, let's start at the beginning. So, why do you feel like storytelling is such a powerful sales tool? And what's your philosophy around that? I know you already started that, but let's get into it a little bit deeper.
Yeah, this is also a personal take for me where feel like over the last 20 years of adulthood, because I'm 40 now, but I feel like there has been this massive shift in the market to where people are telling you what you want to hear or almost feeding the ideas to you as opposed to showing you like what their perspective is. So I think there's this big disconnect between what brands are selling versus what they're saying. And
Mm.
so that's been for me from a marketing point of view and when we're making content, I personally won't buy from businesses that I feel like I have a good sense of smell for the BS. And
Mhm.
so when I start feeling like I am being told something just to get my dollars put in their pockets, I immediately start disconnecting. And so with a background that is based in what I would call the golden age of cinema from like the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, where there was just a lot of stuff that wouldn't be possible to be made anymore because of how that industry functions financially and DVD sales are out, so there's not really a big back end incentive for the actors. So I feel like all of this media over the last probably 15 years or so has just shifted to this kind of shallow level like storytelling and emotional connection with people. And I think it completely connects from a business and a marketing perspective. And I feel the same way in that regard. That's really where I think you have an unfair advantage is by weighing in on connecting with real people instead of listening to that the executive class or the C-suite class that is just going bottom dollar. We need to make 10% over next year, find a way to make it happen. And then you just come up with these kind of cheap tricks in order to get people to purchase.
Oh, I totally agree. I see that a lot on social media. It's every like little post they make is like just a mini ad. And it's that's
Hmm.
not it doesn't really tell me anything. I could get that on your website. I don't really care about that when I'm scrolling through. Like I want to see a little bit like behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And when there's none of that, there's so many scams out there and you're like already on edge. You're like, are these even real people? I'm totally the same way. If I smell a sales pitch, I'm like, no, I'm out. See you.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell me, I know you've probably worked with tons of different companies doing that very thing. Is there an example or a time when you felt like video really told the story of that business and it really made people change how they felt about them?
Yeah, just initially the company that comes to mind is we partnered with a coffee maker in Southern California, and we were doing some advertisement stuff for them around the Anaheim Ducks because that was the local professional hockey team, and of course, like I'm a huge hockey fan, so I was immediately interested in that. But the whole purpose of that ad was connecting the people who watch the game to the brand. And so we went a slightly different route, and the route that we went was this is for the people who can't purchase $600 glass seats. This is for the people that are watching from home with their kids. These are for the people that save up their money to go to one game a season and not the season ticket holders or the people that hold suites because their business is a partner. And I think it was just such a smart decision. This was completely collaborative with that particular business, but it was such a smart decision because if you think about who is actually going to these events and you hold 25,000 seats in an arena, but there's hundreds of thousands of people watching from home, me being included in that group and having and now two children, going and doing things like that are so much more difficult. So I think speaking to the audience that you're really trying to show that your product would benefit in whatever way that happens to be is such, again, a powerful way to approach your advertising. And that's probably like the most applicable one that I can think of because the entire focus of that video project was these are the unsung heroes. These are the people behind the scenes, the ones that are funneling enough into the business to where the business makes enough, but you just never see them because they're not we'll call them like sexy clients.
Yeah.
And I think that one was just really fun from both a planning, pre-production point of view to what they actually got back with.
That's awesome. And so it was really like they really understood their customer too. They really had a laser focus on who they were talking to.
Yeah, when you're selling, I'd say when you're selling something like coffee and your high ticket item is no more than $50, you would be foolish to start marketing that or branding that towards the luxury class because the people who are buying it are in the grocery stores and they need that kick in the morning to help start their day. And we
Mm.
had some kids in it and there was like kitchen scenes in it, and so it was just like these are real people, these are the ones watching on their computers while they're cooking dinner for their children. And I think you just like it's such, again, an unfair advantage to really understand who is purchasing from you.
Yeah. And for some reason, it's such an overlooked thing. I work with companies all the time and I'll say, who's your buyer? Who's your target demographic? What's your dream client? Whatever. And they're like, well, anybody that, has a business. And that's so broad. That's literally everyone. Or they're like, any
Hmm.
person who drinks water. You're like, okay. So we're targeting the entire world. Great. You can't market like that. And so that's a big red flag to me. It's like, you got to go back to your branding. What are like that's my red flag. What are your other some red flags of or like what businesses get wrong when it comes to like, creating videos?
Yeah, let me start answering that by talking about our process a little bit. I think one of the things that sets us apart, besides your typical video vendor, is that we have a very robust pre-production phase. And part of that is where we'll sit down and we really unpack a lot of things, including obstacles that we're trying to overcome through using digital media. Target audience is another really important question because you even something as simple as which platform are you planning on delivering on, because each platform has a slightly different demographic. Like TikTok is young, mm, under 18, mid 20s. Instagram is that millennial class because that's what we have grown up with, is that kind of 18 to 35, 40. Facebook is typically your older crowd. And so asking those questions in the pre-production phase really structures how we're going to end up shooting things. Yeah, starting there, and I feel like I went off. Tell me, just remind me again what the original question was, so I'll come back to it.
No worries. Like, what do businesses get wrong? Red
Businesses.
flags for you.
Yeah. So part of that pre-production is unpacking all of those things, finding out what they're really looking for. And then to answer your question, what people are really getting wrong is coming in with this idea that all they need is A, without thinking about the strategy behind it. So for me, some major red flags are when we get into some of these pre-production calls of telling me, like, what's the problem? What are we trying to solve for? Because there has to be, unless you're Apple and you have no problems whatsoever. But even even a company like that has going to have shareholders go, like, why didn't we make 10%? So
Mhm.
you're going to have a push for sales at some point. So not having a clear idea of what the problem is you're looking to solve. Another red flag for me is wanting to completely be hands off. So
Mhm.
that would be like, we want this thing to fix a problem and we just want to pay you a check and then disappear. So the way that we work is very collaborative. We want our clients to bring their ideas to the table because they're the ones that are in the business every day. Us coming in for 2 to 4 weeks of pre-production isn't going to be nearly what somebody who's worked there for 5 to 10 years is going to bring to the table. So I like hearing all the crazy ideas. So another red flag for me is not having really anything as to what you want to try or what you think works or what has worked in the past. I'd say another big red flag is just kind of communication problems. We will typically just bow out of a project early, send you your deposit back if we already are seeing communication problems, because what I don't want to do is get into like post-production revisions and shooting and then ask for your input and then have nothing come back in return. That typically always results in everyone having a negative experience. You'll receive something at the end of the contract that you don't actually really love, and then that would reflect back negatively on us when really it's just been a problem of communication. Those would probably be my big three.
Awesome. Yeah. And obviously you really love what you do. And so you want to be like, do the best that you can. And I totally get that communication and like having that collaboration in any field of marketing, any part of marketing. That's so important because you know your business better than anybody. So I love that. And I want to, as we're going through this whole episode, like we're going to come back to those red flags and how you can avoid that.
Yeah.
If you're looking to get video made for our listeners, like how does that work? What do you need going in? So a little bit off script, I did have a question though. So you were talking about having their team kind of work with you and that collaboration piece. Now, does that mean that their team is always in the video, or do you work with like actors? Because I
Yeah.
know, so you do work with actors?
Yeah, of course. It's really going to get catered to whatever the client wants. I call them Ricky Bobby hands all the time. From when, as soon as you point a camera, especially a big one with a lot of parts and it's taking up a lot of real estate in front of them, as soon as people see that, it is very difficult to get somebody who is not used to that environment to be comfortable.
Mhm.
I think that is a skill that I possess because of my background in performing arts, to where I can help alleviate some of that stress and pull focus in another direction so that we can actually have a productive conversation. But for sure, yeah, it depends on the project. If someone's telling the story of their business,
Mm.
in my opinion, it has to be somebody from the business, because I'll never get an actor that understands what you've gone through for 20 years. It'll just never be possible. If we're doing something like a lifestyle film or any commercial content, we'll absolutely for casting and then partner with some local people and pull really high quality talent in. That's also something that you don't want to skimp on from a budget perspective. If we're talking about red flags, that's a huge red flag. Let's say the budget for the business is ten to $20,000, and then we go, okay, let's talk about casting. We need $1,000 to pull two people in for one day, and it's no, no, no. So that's another big red flag for me. But yeah, of course, would typically will default, especially if it's a brand project, to using the people that are there. I think there's
Mhm.
so much benefit to highlighting your actual staff, hearing from your all-star team, talking to the owners or the founders or the executive level people, and just really seeing who these people are, especially from a business point of view. I can think of nothing cooler than if I go to your website and I see you talking to me as the client through the website, and then I walk into your facility and there you are. I'm going to feel an instant connection because I already know like what you think, who you are, what your name is, how you talk, your personality to a degree. And then for me, that's just like instant friends.
Mhm. Oh yeah, it builds so much trust. It's like I
Hmm.
now trust everything that your website said because like things are matching up and people they realize whether it's a
Yeah.
conscious decision or not, like they can recognize like things that don't match up or patterns that are just weird. So I
Yeah.
agree it's great to have the client on video, but I know just from working with like home builders and marketers, they're like, "Oh gosh, like I just don't want to be on the video. Can we do something else?" Like it's a big anxiety
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I think you have some tactics for that too. Depending on the size of the business, there probably is somebody who would be great, so we can filter that out. Voiceover is also a really wonderful option where I can get you talking about the business, but we don't have the production that makes people really uncomfortable. And then you always have the option to pull in external talent, and there's some really wonderful people out there. That's just my kind of perspective if we're doing a brand piece. I just feel like it's so important to get the real people there.
For sure, for sure. So now when you're doing these videos, how do you kind of balance like the bringing in the emotion, doing the visuals, the strategy? Like what is kind of your balance? And it probably goes into a lot of your planning process as well. So how does that kind of work if someone has never done a video production before? What would that process look like?
Yeah, so we would spend a couple hours sitting down on a call or in an in-person meeting, whichever is more convenient, and unpacking a handful of that. So usually with a brand project, we have five key elements. One, it's who, what, why, and a call to action at the end. Understanding who, and this I think is where some of those walls get torn down, because I think when people think video, they think like Righteous Gemstones or something where like they have a performance to give and there's pressure about it. But one of the beauty, one of yeah, one thing that's really beautiful about a brand project is, especially if you've been in business for a while, like people already know you. You obviously already have some sort of impact in the community. So understanding like who you are is such an important tool. And I think like that's what takes me back to that authenticity piece of, I hate seeing manufactured elements of who people are or what companies want to project in about their persona. If somebody is stumbling over their words or somebody is uncomfortable in front of a camera or they're shy, that is such an honest, authentic element to who they are. And I would imagine that has such an impact on how they have done business or why they've been successful. So there's part of me is like, why hide it? Like
Mhm.
we don't need to be perfect. And I think this social media element where you just see everybody's highlight reel all the time has taken the realness from people away. And so, what is this persona? And so, for me, from a branding project, I think really just seeing who these people are, like if they are on a walker or if they are slow moving or if they are uncomfortable, those are such interesting things to see, other than like really attractive, handsome, charismatic gentleman in a suit. You know what I mean? There's those are everywhere. Who's so important? Why you do it is where I think a lot of those like all the weight comes off of you, because everybody believes in what they do, especially if you get somebody who's been around for a while. That's such a cool moment to find out like how this company got started. And I started building these chairs because my son didn't have this thing, and let me build these chairs because I can give him a thing. And then a neighbor saw it, and so that's how this huge chair business started. That stuff is so cool.
Yeah.
So breaking down your project into these kind of subsections of who you are, why you do what you do, then how you do what you do it. The why is the emotional hook. If you're thinking about like strategy or outlines for a project,
Mhm.
the why is so important because that just like in a film is the part that connects you to the character. What happened to this person that I can emotionally connect with, and now we're going to go on this journey together. And that's like that heyday of films for me. It's like the old Tom Hanks and Robin Williams films, like Matt Damon and Good Will Hunting. So some of these things that would just Talented Mr. Ripley, like things that would never get made today because they're just a little obscure and they don't have a superhero cape on it. And I just look at that and go, I watch this and I identify so much with this person as a character. And that's acting and film in one way, but I think it just relates so much currently into marketing and branding content. And I think people are just so hungry to see something real that you see these things like Pop Darts or Dollar Shave Club or whatever it happens to be. And it's just like silly dudes or silly people. You know what I mean? Whatever it happens to be, or like the person on the weekend that likes drinking cocktails. So they started their own cocktail company and like now she's killing it. These are awesome. And they do so well because people understand that part of themselves.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's funny because I have fallen into that same trap of trying to make social media videos, and I feel like I need to perform and be like so much more than I normally am. And I told this story not long ago, but my kids one day I was editing videos on my computer, and my kids were home from school, and they were laying in my office, and they were like started laughing, and I was like, "What is so funny over there?" And they're like, "Mom, that is not you. That who is that? What are you doing? Like, why are you acting like that?" And it was such a I'm just being professional, leave me alone. But it really made me think, like, I was putting on more of an act maybe than I needed to. And so I think kids are just very blunt with those kind of things, but I think all of us have that same kind of radar in our brains. That's probably not who
Yeah.
they are or whatever. So it's embracing those kind of flaws that does make you human.
Oh yeah, some of the best stuff that I've put out, or the stuff at least that I like the most, because I think a lot of especially the social media game, you should just make yourself one. Like you should. I had a mentor when I was really pursuing performing, and when we were talking about stuff, he was like, "You should just tickle yourself," and I was like, "I don't understand what that means. Do you mean like under the armpits?" And he was like, "No, like when you're putting out this kind of content, you should do stuff. The point is that you should do stuff that makes you happy, as
Mhm.
opposed to that outward persona, what you think other people want to see. And for me, some of the stuff that I would watch over and over again that I do, and everybody hates seeing themselves on camera, including performers or former performers. I think everybody has that ism, but like the ones that I love are where my son walks in and he hears me like playing around, but he thinks I'm screaming at my wife. So he'll come in and give me the hands on the hips and scold me. And then I just die laughing. I'm like, okay, that's just going into this like clip at the end because it means so much to me to keep it.
Mhm. Yeah, that's so awesome. That's so funny too. Kids are the best, and we really should listen to them more because they're very wise. I think that there's a balance there, and I think it's a mindset shift for people that are in like, we need a video for our brand, or we want to start doing social videos or whatever. Like to break away from we have to be perfect and focus on what really matters. And again, like that starts at the branding phase because your team has to know all of those things as well. And whoever's going to be working on this video has to all share in this vision of what the company is and who we're talking to. So it comes from leadership down or whoever the owners down. And then finding those people, like you said, I like to, you're like somebody in your company is going to be comfortable on video. I've heard also like owners or the executives, they're like, we only want these people in the videos, those higher level people. And it's, I get it, but I also show your whole team, show everyone. And it's not, I think they're afraid that, oh, that person's not going to be here forever. Or what if they leave or whatever? And it's just give
Well,
some
yeah.
personality.
Yeah, I think that's where you buck up and go, okay, great. I don't want someone else to do the job that I want to do, even though I don't want to do it. So now I get to be the boss. And part of being the boss is doing some of the things that you probably don't want to do all the time. In my experience, haven't really run into that where the people who created the brand aren't passionate about it.
Oh yeah.
Um, in my case, at least, it hasn't really been a big problem. More so when we start expanding and we go, let's find some key players in the company who can also speak and
Mhm.
give their perspectives, or let's find like you can do recruiting style content, you can do video sales letters, you can do brand story videos, you can do all these different kind of umbrella under the umbrella of branding content. And
Mhm.
when you start going down those rabbit holes, then you'll start finding some more opportunity for people to feel uncomfortable. But you just ask, around. And then another thing that I offer with our business is like pre-shoot coaching opportunities. And most of that is just so that we can break the ice,
Mhm.
especially if now there's lights and boom mics and cables everywhere and everything's dark and you're walking into this cocoon of uncomfortable that you've never been in. At least if I can sit down with you for 30 minutes on a call and just go, this is exactly what this is going to feel like. You're going to be talking to me directly. It's not going to be just a whole bunch of lenses pointing at you. And tell me how you feel about this. What are your anxieties? Maybe we'll do a little mock interview and I'll actually give you the questions that we have catered or created through these kind of pre-production calls. This is the stuff that we're going to ask. So how would you naturally answer that on a Zoom call? And then if it's great, then that's exactly what we're going to do once the camera's pointing at you. So there's always a way to solve for whatever the problem happens to be.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. I was really honored to be asked to do a judging for a marketing and design awards. And I got the
Hmm.
video section and I was doing videos for like community, like feature videos. And they wanted the main goal for most of them was like, I want to show the lifestyle of living in this community. And then they also, aside to that, is what sets our homes in this community apart from everyone else. And I could really tell just by watching like the ones who really went in with a really good plan and had really thought out like who they're talking to again. And like they had different kind of clips in the video of the whole community. Some of them were like a little bit more like it was just in their sales office. And if you're trying to show like the lifestyle of a community, like you got to show the community. So like it really interesting. There were some beautiful videos that I got to watch, but I could tell like the planning phase really went into like how successful that was. So from your
100%.
perspective, what can like builders or small businesses do in that planning phase before they call you or right in the beginning? What can they prepare to make that as successful as possible?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think narrowing your focus down and finding one clear objective. Is it like, for example, let's compare this to builders. Is it the scale of the project? Is it how capable you are? And you want to show a whole bunch of different types of facilities that you are in the business of building? Or is it the feeling that the people who are going to receive, we'll call it your product, are going to have? And so I think one, honing in on the emotional connection first is going to be really important, and then getting really clearly focused on what the message you're trying to say is. For example, like purchasing a home, if we're going to talk about builders, you constantly hear the phrase, it's the largest purchase you're ever going to make in your life, right? So that is extremely emotionally invested. A home's emotional. It's not just drywall, countertops, and like picking out your cabinet color. It's going to be what are the experiences that they are going to have in this home? What are they going to have a family? Is this where they're going to introduce new members of their family to the world out of? Or is this where they're going to graduate high school? Is this where they're planning on spending the rest of their lives? And I think tapping into those emotional stories that everybody can have a connection with, other than we build this with X grade wood and we pull in the highest quality granite from Macquarie in Tennessee, those don't matter because there's no way to translate that into a person's life long term. And we did a project for a construction business, and at the end of that video, there's a lot of the building process up front, scaffolding stuff flying in with cranes, people cutting, sparks going everywhere, hard hats. But the video ends with these emotional moments of people being in these spaces that are theirs. And that is by far more impactful than showing how you can cut stuff. And albeit it's
Yeah.
cool, but I think coming in with some sort of idea of what you want to say and who you want to say it to is so critical. And then narrowing that focus down to maybe one or two ideas, because it is very difficult for the viewer to really understand what you're trying to say unless it's crystal clear.
Yep. Yep. You got to make it way simpler than you even think. I think it's hard because marketers, they get like all these goals and like they're getting it from their boss and the sales team and everybody. And they're like, we have to do all of these things. And I would agree that you really have to like narrow things down and be like, okay, but this is the most important goal, and prioritize your goals because it gets convoluted really quick in all types of marketing.
Hmm.
And I like what you said about what's going to happen in this home. I think salespeople talk about that a lot, like buying a home is an emotional decision. And then they like, okay, but here's a spec sheet that just has a list of stuff on it. And it's the same, it's yes, we think it, but also there's this other side. So when I say sell more than square footage, that's really what I'm talking about. With don't just
Yeah.
talk about all these specs. Like every home has a kitchen with granite countertops and the sink. It's that doesn't make you special. So I really liked what you said. And I want to go to finding your story, because that's really what you were saying. In my perspective, is you have to know what your story is in order to
Mhm.
tell it on this video. So what if they are don't know, or they're not really sure yet, or they haven't defined it? They know it, but they haven't defined it.
Yeah, that's a tough position to be in. I think if that's where we are, the project's not ready to launch. We're not ready to go into production. And I think a maturity in business comes from when to know to like either pump the brakes or just say maybe this isn't the right fit, because I want to make sure that you get what you're paying for. I think you're completely right. I've had a couple conversations with some people lately who I'll go to their website and I just go, I don't know what you do. There's 50
Mhm.
things on your site and they're all completely unrelated. So yeah, it's a tough question. I think sitting down and like we can do like a discovery phase, let's call it, and then sit down and really try to unpack what that happens to be. And I think it's a long conversation. If you're not clear about it, there's not really much of a way that I can be clear about what you need to say. That collaboration element will definitely be involved. And I think you can go one of two ways. It's either what's the problem that you're trying to solve, or what's the story that you want to tell. And I think both of those just come with a lot of additional questions to them. If the story is, and maybe I'll put quotations around story, because maybe the story is we want to find better quality people to work here, or maybe it's the house that we build is so good that you're going to have this experience in it, and we really want to push the
Home.
emotional attach. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough question. I don't even know if I have a good answer for you in this amount of time, but I think
Yeah.
really, I think sitting down and having those conversations either with your team or with a vendor like ourselves, and then finding like what just something really clear that you're trying to convey, and then
Yeah.
at
No,
least start there and then unpack it.
yeah. No, I think you're right on, because you're right. Like you can only expect so much from a video. If you don't know what you're going in there with, it, what those goals are, what your story is, and you really can't create the video. So like in that planning phase, like that's what you have to, that's your benchmark at least. So making sure that you have the outline, the bullet points of what your goals are, what your story is. I think that helps for anybody who hasn't made video at ever before or has never done this. Like that's a good starting point, right? And then just building from there.
Yeah, I think you can also, if you don't have a clear objective, then start thinking on the pain points and pivot that direction, because that will give you clarity really quickly. And maybe your problem is that you have really high turnover. And so you go, I don't know how to exactly fix that. We have really high turnover. And then through the discovery phase, you can find out that it's not actually a problem with turnover, it's a problem with qualified talent. And you're just hiring the wrong people. So we need to help create something that is going to attract high quality talent so that you don't have this turnover, just as an example.
Yeah, for sure. I want to change gears a little bit and I want to focus on social media. So,
Okay.
social media is a big place that a lot of people are like, we need video for our social. And I know because I've seen your social videos, you know what you're doing. Tell me what makes social videos different than a longer form like brand video or something like that?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference in social media content is that you have such a short window of opportunity to get somebody to finish, and it's usually 2 seconds. And
Mhm.
so, if you think about even just like your own behavior late at night, wherever you happen to be, at tired, your lunch break, you're just sitting there 1 second scrolling. And so, that's the area of opportunity for you to grab their attention and then the finger stops. You know what I mean? That's the biggest problem with social media, where if you're doing like a project for the website or you're doing a big banner video or whatever happens to be, you're probably going to go 10, 15 seconds before there's any audio at all, because you're just establishing a feel or you're establishing a location. And with social media, you just don't have that luxury. So it's like, hey, stop. And then how many times do you see those videos where that's literally what it is? You've got the vertical and there's just a face there going, I know you're about to scroll, but don't. And that's a tactic that people use. So the biggest challenge is the reality of social media, that there is so much and most of it is not good. And so everybody just swipes right past it. So you have 1 to 2 seconds to hook the viewer's attention. And then if you can hook them, you have 1 to 2 more seconds to keep them there before that, hey, stop scrolling. And then they turns to like commercial cleaning and then you just swipe away.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It's tough because, and I think also like when I'm doing the 1 second scrolls late at night, I'm not looking for a sales pitch either. I'm looking for something entertaining. I'm looking for
Hmm.
something that, like, yes, I want you to catch my attention so that I stop. But then if you just go right into, let me show you my product and sell it to you, I'm like, okay, bored. Like, I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, I think with businesses specifically, yes, you have that challenge of, I have a few seconds, but you also have the trust that you've built with the existing customer base that you have. If you have followers and they are following you for a reason, so you probably have a little bit more leeway there. You also have to put out content that those people also want to continue seeing.
Oh yeah, for sure. And everyone wants that viral moment. They're like, "Oh, just do these videos so that we'll go viral and then that will bring us all this business." And that seems to be like the ultimate goal, which I personally have a different opinion about going viral. I don't think it's as great
And
as everyone makes it out to be because like there's a lot of reasons, but
yeah,
the goals are different on social, but the content does have to match up. And I think when you're so focused on, oh, we just need to stop the scroll or we just need to get this viral video or whatever, when that's the only thing you're looking at, you're doing yourself a disservice.
yep.
So I don't know. What's your thoughts on the whole let's go viral thing?
I hate it. I literally just put something out about that, where viral has nothing to do with strategy. Viral is a lottery ticket that some people happen to win based on unknown factors and probably unrepeatable factors as well. So I think viral is one of those kind of blessings and a curse at the same time. You may get a ton of exposure, but then the follow up to that exposure can also possibly kill your company. And the way I look at it is exactly like a lottery ticket winner. And how many times do we hear stories about people winning the jackpot and they get millions of dollars, and then you find out that they're broke or they're back wherever? And you see this in professional sports all of the time, because it's such a rush and influx of either additional business or activity. And then people just go, oh, okay, unfollow, whatever happens to be. So I think it is an exciting thing that can happen to a few people who have taken advantage of it, but I think the majority of people who get any sort of viral moment, it just falls flat next.
Yeah. I
But
think there's different levels of viral too. Like when people think of viral, they're thinking like 20 million views or 200 million views, like whatever. And it's like everybody in the world has seen this. That's one thing. But for your company to go viral, maybe that is just 1,000 people that you did not already know that are exactly in your niche, that exactly
yeah,
want your product. That's going to be so much more impactful than the like 20,000 people that just thought your video was funny and don't really care about you.
Yeah, I completely agree. I probably wouldn't label that viral for me. I would put that more under a consistency label. Like maybe you have the one that hits, but I think for me, social media, what it really excels in is the ability to build trust and build reach in short form content. The other thing that I think it can do is if you are putting out longer form content or if you have the capacity to do that, the short form content, because it's so accessible, can push your audience to the longer form content where you can get a lot more benefit out of that piece. Because 15 seconds, you're probably not going to convey a whole lot, but if that 15-second piece can push somebody to the 10-minute piece, I think that's super valuable from a tools point of view. I also think there's like a relatability element of it. Company that's putting out consistent content like daily or 3 times a week or twice a week, whatever it happens to be, that person is far more likely to fall under that know and trust mentality of purchasing, where this is a tool that I think everybody should use. Where if I'm a video vendor, right? Let's just take us for example, and I'm putting consistent content out that where you can see my personality, how I interact with people, the way I talk, do I have a sense of humor? Mm, is there any sort of charm or charisma whatsoever? And we also happen to have a company that does video production. And then you have been seeing this relatively consistency for 1, 2 years, maybe. And then all of a sudden you go, hey, I think we need some video. Does anybody have a lead for a video vendor? And then you're sitting there in the corner with your little hand raised, going, I actually know somebody who would be really great who that's the benefit to the social media. I think it's top of mind, it's building that know and trust mentality of purchasing, and then when somebody does need their mattress or they do need a new chocolate bar, they just go to the company that they have now seen for the last however long, and they go, you're the person I want to spend my money with.
Yep. Oh, for sure. And it's a hard thing to put that on a spreadsheet and show that as so it's like one of those you just gotta trust the process in some ways. But I always say not very many people walk into a company and be like, oh, I'm just here because I saw your social media. But that was a huge factor in why they are there. They may not
Yeah.
even realize it. And so it's definitely in the nurture, like longer phase strategies, but so impactful.
They have that metric where they talk about the average person spends, what is it, 72 hours researching before a purchase.
Yeah.
There's a lot that can happen in 72 hours in combination with your websites and any sort of brochures or pamphlets, your YouTube's account, your social media account. I think about how long I've been looking at the same truck. You know what I mean? And it's 2.5 years and I still haven't bought it because I'm like, I just want to look a little bit more and find out some more about this truck. And so I think if it's something like a juice box, you're obviously not going to have that kind of investment. But the higher the ticket the item is, the longer the purchasing process will be. And anything that you can do to increase your chances, especially in the social media market, why wouldn't you take advantage of that?
Oh yeah, for sure. So I want to talk about another thing that I hear a lot from marketers, especially when they put in a lot of money into making a video, long form video. They've done a lot of effort and then they're like, okay, we want to use this as much as we can. And so they will send that to me or to my team and be like, okay, slice this up and make social media content with it, which I think has like really good thought process to it because as marketers, we want to repurpose as much as we can. But what is your kind of philosophy on that? Do you have like tips or warnings or anything on like how to repurpose longer form for social?
Yeah, I love repurposing long content. And I think really the tips that I would have would be around curating the best moments or the highest quality moments or the thing that is absolutely crystal clear. So you see this all the time where like you'll see a vertical social media video, whatever happens to be YouTube reel, and it's 30 seconds and it's the part that you just go, what does he say next? Or what does she say next? What happened right before this in the conversation? And then that channels you into the longer piece. And excuse me, I don't think a lot of people are just going, I'm going to learn how to do this based on short form content. So I think of repurposing material as a tool to funnel people into a larger pool, whether that's the longer piece or onto the website or wherever it is that you're looking for. That is a tool. And so you need to be strategic in the sense of you don't just take the longer piece and cut it into fours and then put four pieces out. You really do need to at least take a moment to look at what are the parts that are engaging, and then how can I structure this in a way that makes people want to go, no, I need to know what happens next or beforehand. So I think that's the biggest challenge is not being lazy with it and just putting it into one of those online editors and going, you do it. But
Yeah,
yeah.
it's the power of that confusion. It's like the little bit of a question that you're left with after the video is actually a good thing. It's going to lead you to
Mhm.
the next thing. And it's scary, I think, for people to do that because like what I want to make sure that they get what I'm trying to tell them. And I like they feel like they need to give everything in that one video, which is first
Yeah.
not possible, but second, like you're missing out on a strategy there.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of salt going on in there, you know what I mean? From I want it now. And I think there is an understanding that needs to happen where 100% of your viewership is not going to be a buyer. And so you just go, okay, what's the margin that we're looking for? Is it 10%? Is it 1%? And then you have to be realistic about it. So if I can repurpose this with at least some sort of strategic element to it and go, maybe 1% of everybody who sees this gets funneled to our website, and that's a win for us. And then you adjust and move your strategy from there. But I think you just have to be a little bit more realistic because not everything can convert at a 100% rate.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right. I've already kept you way longer than I thought I would. This has been a great conversation. Thank you again so much for joining me. I want to make sure that anybody who wants to connect with you or work with you potentially in the future knows where to follow you. Where would be the best place to find you online?
We're pretty active on most of the social platforms, so you can find Boda Studios on Instagram at boda.studios. YouTube, I believe it's Boda Studios. You can go to bodastudios.com is a great resource where you can see our most recent work, any sort of like philosophies from the business, and an easy way to contact us through the website. So those would probably be the three best places.
Awesome. And I will put all of those links in the description box as well. So you can look there if you're looking for Casey. Awesome. Is there anything else that you want to leave our listeners with before we end this episode?
Um, I think the message that I've been harping on the whole time is being authentic. One of the one of my business's catchphrases or mantras, whatever you want to call it, is real people, real stories, unforgettable films. And I think if you're going to ask me, honing back in on the authentic, honing back in on real people, real stories, what you do for the community, how you benefit those around you, and not this kind of take mentality of how much can I get. I think you and your business will benefit on an emotional level, spiritual level, whatever you happen to believe on. But I think giving back and connecting with that authentic kind of element of who you are and how you can connect to other people will only give you net positives over than some of the other options.
Absolutely. 100%. Awesome. I hope everyone enjoyed this episode. Go follow Casey right now after the episode, and we will see you in our next one. Thanks again, everybody. Peace out.